Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, I'm afraid you might get a bit tired of me, but we were also close to the end though. So it's great that we have so many participants still here. And I would like to also use this opportunity to share with you some of the outcomes of this 28th World Economic Forum Summit on Africa. So this is the 28th time we do this summit, and we have done it also in a very Pan-African way. We have had the summit many places in Africa. But this summit has not only been discussions, it also has led to real outcomes. I would, though, before sharing with you some of the outcomes, say that we should never underestimate also what happens in meetings and during discussions. When leaders meet and they listen to other leaders, you get inspired, and when you come back home, you also actionize things because you have learned and you're inspired. I can say that myself, having been visiting the Africa Summit also in different capacities as foreign minister and environment ministers, and always when I come back from these meetings, I came back with some ideas to implement. These days, and during this summit, we developed an action plan that was launched to tackle the crisis of gender-based violence. The plan is backed by the government of South Africa through the Ministry of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities and the United Nations in South Africa. The plan has 3 core priorities: to work with the technology industry to deploy a free emergency response system for women under attack in 9 provinces in South Africa. Just imagine what difference that means. Support for women entrepreneurs as means of promoting economic empowerment. And lastly but not least, establishment of a fund to help support South Africa's gender-based violence strategy and action plans, because we have to walk the talk. There should be 0 tolerance for gender-based violence. It is just totally appalling and totally unacceptable. The Africa Growth Platform was launched to help start-up businesses access finance, advice, and better regulatory conditions. Founding partners are Alibaba Group, A.T. Kearney, Dalberg Group, Export Trading Group, U.S. African Development Foundation, and Senate Bank. Thank you. The African Risk Resilience Platform was initiated. It will combine private sector resources with those of governments to help countries prepare for climate and disease-related disasters. The World Economic Forum teamed with the International Trade Center to kick off an e-commerce action agenda, and listening to the discussion here, you know how important this is. The initiative is aimed at promoting cross-border data services in Africa, an industry that could create 3 million jobs across the region by 2025. Thank you. I got used to applause, I was waiting for it. Thank you. The African Union, in partnership with the World Economic Forum, launched a new foundation paving the way for private sector to help build capacity and resources to strengthen health security across the region. The World Bank and the Forum teamed with African governments to launch an innovation challenge aimed at finding new ways of using drones across Africa. The competition, supported by the UK's Department for International Development, is a prerequisite also to unlock the Africa Drone Forum, which will be held for the first time in Rwanda in 2020. And the Forum's Global Plastic Action Partnership signed a national partnership with the country of Ghana. The partnership aims to combine public and private sector resources to tackle plastic pollution. We should have no plastic pollution in the oceans surrounding Africa in the future. So this could have gone on and on. We have had a lot of concrete results too, but I just wanted to share some highlights with you. Before introducing the government of South Africa, I would also like to use this opportunity to thank my colleagues at the World Economic Forum under the leadership of Elsie Kansa, our Africa Director. Please stand up, Elsie, for tremendous work. Please. Elsie and the team has done a tremendous job, so we're very thankful and for this. Now it is my honor to introduce Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, the Finance Minister of South Africa, also a long-standing friend of the World Economic Forum, to make some short closing remarks, and after that I will have the honor to introduce the President of Ethiopia. Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President of the World Economic Forum. Your Excellencies, heads of states and government, colleagues in government, ministers, let me say the serving ministers, but also the retired ministers. I saw one famous retired minister here, Trevor Manywa. Leaders of business, dear delegate, on behalf of the President of the Republic of South Africa, I wish to thank once again the World Economic Forum for this most brilliant organization of the Forum for Africa 2019. As is usually the case, the organizational ability of the World Economic Forum has come to our full support. Led by Elsie, Kanza, and others, the team at the World Economic Forum has always produced the best of the best. The conversations over the past couple of days have been indeed very enriching. I, as you know, have been associated with the forum for close on 30 years, and I always make sure that if I could go home with one or two things, I'll be more enriched. And one of the things that I'll be going back home with is the immense talent that was displayed here by young people. They even had the courage to ask me a question I could not answer. So, thank you very much for coming to Cape Town, for coming to enjoy whatever beauty there is of this country. Thank you for coming despite the difficulties which we're facing at the moment. And thank you for understanding that these are issues we have to deal with, and you did not abandon us when you saw young people expressing themselves as young people indeed should, when they are unhappy about one thing or the other. I used to do the same when I was young, and I contributed towards the movement forward. We must not condemn young people when they express themselves. We did the same when we were young. The last thing that I'm taking home with me is an expression that I'm going to popularize on Twitter. Mosquitoes have no passports. Mosquitoes have no passports. And I think this is a clarion call to the African leadership to ensure that there's free movement of people as we open up the African continental free trade area. Once again, thank you for coming to Cape Town. Thank you for the discussions. Go home safely. Bon voyage, Kanimambo. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much for your warm remarks. No, it is my time to thank you and also President Cyril Ramaphosa and the government of South Africa for your unparalleled hospitality. It has been a pleasure to work with you personally, but also with the presidency and with the government. There are close ties between South Africa and the World Economic Forum. So, thank you. Now we have come to next year's planning, and we, of course, have to plan our Africa Summit also for 2020. And I have to say that for the last 2 years, there has been really a huge silver lining in Africa related to Ethiopia. The new Prime Minister and also the first woman President of Ethiopia has shown so much leadership, and there has happened so much in that country during the last 1 or 2 years, more than that has happened in a long time. So we thought it was about time to be back in Addis Ababa. To also show our support to this progressive leadership. So it is really it's a great honor to have President Zewde here with us. So I would now give the floor to the President, Her Excellency, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Minister Børge, for the kind words. Excellencies, heads of states and governments, Honorable Minister, South Africa, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me from the outset to extend our heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to the government of the Republic of South Africa for hosting this year's African chapter of the World Economic Forum in a very distinguished way. We have also appreciated the legendary hospitality and warm welcome that has been accorded to us since our arrival in this beautiful city of Cape Town. I would like to particularly thank His Excellency President Ramaphosa and the people of South Africa for their hospitality. Allow me to thank the World Economic Forum and its chairman, its staff, the president, for their prominent gathering attended by many. I think it was a very good turnout. And also for having organized very important discussions, panels, plenaries on prominent, critical topics that concerns our continent and how to shape its sustainable future. I'm also grateful to have had the chance to participate in this timely conference and having conversed with many leaders and people from all walks of life, and to have had also our modest contributions in shaping an inclusive and sustainable growth in the fourth industrial revolution. I must say that I've truly enjoyed all these different panels, plenaries. It was a non-stop for the last 3 days, conversations. I must confess that I have learned a lot from amazing people, and also I'm very appreciative for the frank and candid discussions that we had. In the last 2 days, policymakers and people from different horizons have engaged in extensive discussions on issues of critical importance: innovation, cooperation on sustainable development, job creation, focused on digitalization and peace building. We all remain in the midst of an exceptionally difficult and challenging period against the backdrop of continuous assault on multilateralism that we are witnessing elsewhere. Although I've been very much encouraged by the thoughtful dialogue and interaction with leaders and partners, as well as able African youth, I believe we must, however, continue to develop mechanisms that are more impactful to resolving challenges and practical African issues, to think differently on inclusive growth, seek new partnership, as well as further commit to deliver a new and previous commitments. I'm sure you all agree with me in this respect. The World Economic Forum remains to be one of the most instrumental forums, allowing countries from the continent and beyond to reflect on the most difficult challenges and responses needed, but also to ensure conversations to take place at continental level to achieve the most inclusive growth for our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the distinct honor to invite you all to Ethiopia in September next year. My country is ready to welcome you all for yet another remarkable session of the World Economic Forum on Africa. It will be a distinct honor to organize for the second time, the last time being in 2012, this session in Addis Ababa. We shall make every effort to ensure that next year's forum in Addis to focus on the most consequential and pressing issues surrounding our continent, Africa. We are confident that you will join us in large numbers in this city you know, the capital city of Africa, not only to deliberate on the challenges that our continent and the world at large face, but also to enjoy the exceptional Ethiopian hospitality. On the way to Addis, let's make this coming year a very fruitful year. Let's move to have more impactful measures to be taken, with more actions on the ground beyond the meetings that we have in boardrooms. Let's make a continent free from gender-based violence, xenophobia, exclusion, all those evils that hamper our development. There is no place for such things in the Africa we want. Let me conclude by thanking once again the leaders and innovators in this audience, but most importantly, all the hardworking women and men who have made and the security personnel and so on, who have contributed their share to ensure that our meetings in this state-of-the-art convention center becomes a success. On this note, once again, allow me to say goodbye and to invite you next year in September in Addis Ababa. And the last invitation from me would be to invite you to join me to the reception we are organizing soon after this closing session. I thank you very much for your kind attention.